Group 2. Should nicotine and alcohol tests be mandatory for employment? The affirmative is Carson Bogue and Martha Schenkel. Our definition of terms is mandatory, required by law or rules, or otherwise known as compulsory. Test, a procedure intended to establish the quality, performance, or reliability of something, especially before it is taken into widespread use. Employment, the condition of having paid work. Those are from the Oxford Dictionary. The affirmative case lines. I'm going to be talking about safety risks, lackluster standards and regulation for current testing, and withdrawals effect on users and their behavior. Martha's going to be talking about how usage impairs the user's judgment, and it creates an inability for consistency and accountability in the workplace. So, safety risks. Nicotine and alcohol both have allergies.
So we're group 3 and we're going to be talking.
They affect your state of mind. They affect whether or not you can think straight, see straight, walk straight. Whether you're using on or off work, it can really affect your performance, your reliability, and your safety in the workplace. Safety being the most important, because safety comes first. So whether or not you work in a customer-based environment where you have thousands of people coming in and out each day, if you have nicotine reeking off of your shirt, you might have allergies, polluting people. If you work in an industrial environment with heavy machinery, forklifts, big trucks, that could affect your ability to drive or stay out of the way if something were to happen like that.
The ability to pay is
lackluster standards for regulation in current testing. What that means is currently it's left up to the employer for whether or not they want to have these tests included or how strict the tests are. That kind of creates a scenario where you're at one place and they're really, really strict on it and they're keeping it out of the workplace, and then you go next door to their competitor and you have things happening. You have the safety risks that are happening. You have all of our case lines that are listed, all because these legislations aren't put in place to protect people and protect businesses. That can create lawsuits, that can create claims, that can create crimes, just because nicotine and alcohol usage in and around the workplace doesn't have a strict regulation around it. And then next up is withdrawal. So when you're undergoing withdrawal, it can create anger, it can create malice, it can create it can create impatience. So even if you don't use it at work and it's not affecting your safety, it's not affecting your judgment, it still gives you withdrawals for whenever you don't have those things at hand, especially nicotine in this case. I know that people do feel withdrawals for alcohol, but mainly nicotine withdrawals can really impair people. That's all that I
I'm on the
have.
affirmative side,
All right.
along with Michelle, and our opposing side is going to be Kai and Joe.
And we'll rotate over.
My terms that I'm going to be defining, I'm defining healthcare, which is a broad system of services dedicated to improving
Good morning.
well-being. As
Should
well as
businesses
maintaining
require
and
alcohol or
improving
nicotine
human health.
testing prior to
It
employment?
includes diagnosis,
Carson had
mental illnesses.
very good points, but I'd like to
wellness
point out a
checkups,
few other
mental
things.
health
We'll
support.
get into that in a second.
It involves a wide network.
I am
of
the opposition. My name is
providers,
James.
including
Brooke will also be
doctors, nurses,
following up
hospitals,
as
and
opposition
shaped by
too.
social and
We'll
economic
be discussing why adding nicotine and alcohol to
The ability to
pre-employment
pay
drug
is
testing is
the
not
ability-
needed.
an individual's
We'll touch on
overall
5 major
financial
points
capacity
during
to
our time.
afford a
These points
particular
include
good or
testing for
service,
legal drugs
and
can
it's
be considered an
taking into
invasion of
account not only their
privacy.
current income, but
On-site
also their
testing can be extremely
ongoing
invasive,
financial obligations
and the
savings.
possibility of false
It basically
positives.
reflects whether paying for something
Brooke
would
will
require
later on talk about the effect of
Sacrificing
testing while on
essential
prescription drugs
or cause financial harm.
and the recourse of surprising
So
surprise
our case line
tests.
is
most of us have
Whether it's
lives
ethical
outside
to
of
deny
work or
healthcare,
school, right?
Should someone's life depend
And what we
on how
do in
much
our
money
own
they
time
have?
should not affect our
No.
work lives.
It shouldn't.
The opposition believes what we do in our
Every day,
own
people are
time
faced
is
with
no one's
decisions between
business
their health and
but our own.
their finances.
If I have a job
I'm
interview
gonna
in the
be
morning
discussing
and I decide to
society
have a few
benefits,
alcoholic drinks the night before, I shouldn't
as
have to
well as
worry
rights
that
of
I
care,
might not
equality and
get the job
fairness,
because I'm blowing off steam the
economic
best way I know
sustainability,
how.
and principalism.
This being said, showing
When
to an
everyone
interview
receives
drunk
medical care,
is absolutely
diseases are treated
unacceptable.
earlier and they're prevented.
But
They
a test that shows that
spread
you have
illnesses
had
and
alcohol in your
diseases.
system doesn't prove your
It
potential
not
or
only
lack
protects
thereof.
individuals, but the entire
to the
population
employer.
as well.
A person's life is their own and should not be
This results
judged
in a healthier workforce.
for what we do in our
it-
own time.
Which means people can attend school,
Nicotine.
maintain jobs.
How many of
And
us know
contribute
someone
more
that is
effectively
addicted
to
to
the economy.
nicotine? Have we seen them act
Next, I'm gonna bring
differently
up the
when
idea
they've
of
just
right to
finished
care
a
as a
smoke
human
or a
right.
dip?
While you may
The answer
argue
is
that
absolutely
healthcare
no.
is an absolute right, we argue
A
that
person that has
this
nicotine
right
in their
is truly
system
limited,
has never directly
especially
caused
when resources
incident
are
in the
constrained.
workplace.
access to healthcare should be treated
Is
like
there
access
any
to food,
study
water,
that
shelter,
shows
right to have
performance
something
decreases
that you
with
earn
these
and something that you
individuals?
simply have because you're a human.
Yes, they take more smoke
Money is
breaks,
replaceable,
but
human
I would
life
like
is
to
not.
point out that breaks are
Additionally, I'm gonna
mandatory
bring up
for
equality
any
and
person
fairness.
working in the United States.
Treating everyone exactly the same
Most
may be
tests
fair, but
that are
in
given on
reality,
site
fairness
require the individual
can also
to
mean
either shove a
considering
cotton
what
swab,
individuals
in their
contribute
mouth,
and how
which can be very
resources are
uncomfortable,
distributed.
or urinate into a cup.
The denial of care
I
can
cannot
create a
think
two-tiered
of
system
anything
where
that could
the
be more
wealthy once
invasive
again
to my
get
personal
better
space.
treatment than the poor.
Now, some individuals have zero issues
To add
being
to the
instructed to
benefits
follow
of
these
society,
commands,
it's
but
a
some,
healthy
to include
population,
myself,
there's lower long-term
see these
costs,
procedures as dehumanizing and humiliating.
prevents the
I
spread of
believe
infection,
concern
and there's
of
also
drug
an increased
use
life
warrants
expectancy
tests, but not
and
simply
quality of life.
to be hired.
For right to care, life-saving care is not a luxury. People without money may suffer or die from treatable conditions.
I quote,
And healthcare is
individuals
necessary for
argue that
survival and dignity.
on-site tests
For
are
equality and
not as
fairness,
accurate
everyone
or
deserves equality,
precise
equal
as
opportunity
standard
to be healthy.
reference
Poor people are disadvantaged
laboratory
for something they
assays.
can't control. It
End
leads
quote.
to a divided and unhealthy society.
Uh,
and a
Quote,
fair system
results are determined
must provide
visually
access to care.
and the human eye is not as sophisticated as a spectrometer, end quote. And that was Amanda J. Jenkins, 2002. False positives exist. They happen. Can you imagine going to an interview and your drug test comes back positive even though you haven't even taken any drugs?
I didn't know what to say.
I know that I would be embarrassed
How long was that?
and would probably not even want to fight for a retest.
8 minutes.
Even if an individual decides to
I
retake
don't
a
have to read
test,
off of this, but
would the potential employer entertain the idea that it was a false positive? The stigma
We got it.
that may follow the individual
I
for
mean,
quite some
obviously, I can slow
time
it down, but
could ruin their ability to push forward in the hiring process.
okay,
They may have to endure multiple testings to confirm that
like
it wasn't
everything
a
that I was
false
saying.
positive in the first place.
I think so. You kind of
Thank you for your
like-
time.
Like, you may say this.
Up
but
next will be
this is
Martha.
the truth. Yeah, so, but. After they go, then.
Hi, I'm Martha, and I'll be the second affirmative. I will be speaking about impaired judgment and how nicotine and alcohol creates inconsistent and less of accountability in the workplace. Impaired judgment is one of the biggest ways alcohol and lesser to extent of alcohol, nicotine can affect workplace performance. With alcohol, judgment is very, I wouldn't say very, it's directly weakened, impacts the brain. Fog can still affect decision making, leading to mistakes or poor choices.
Alright,
poor
so
choices
I'm
on the
arguing
job.
That healthcare should be denied.
So, especially if
based
you're
on
like
ability
in
to
a
pay.
leader position,
And my first point
you
on
would have to
why we
make
should
big
deny healthcare
decisions
based on
and your
ability to pay
judgment would be
is
impaired
that,
by, oh my god, I don't think
it
this
will
is.
promote personal
Don't break.
responsibility, because when someone knows they can just go to a hospital and get treatment whenever they